Winston Churchill once said, "The price of greatness is incredible responsibility," and that's the life of Billy Joe Red McCombs.
Red took his God-given gifts and used them to transform San Antonio and all over Texas.
Today on Mission Park Cares, we are honored to bring you the highlights of the celebration of life for Red McCombs.
Now, here's our dear friend, Pastor Les Holland.
Red was a storyteller, and we are here today, as well as joining by live stream, because Red included us in his story. As a boy in Spur, Texas, the gospel got a part of his heart and released dynamic energy. So today's community gathering and event is also a worship experience. That as you have entered with your memories with Red, how you and he formed stories together, how it is that you shaped a goodness and life in our world, my prayer is that you will feel God's comfort with you and encouragement to continue on in your best life. Linda and Marcia and Connie and all the McCombs family, we all know that you were number one with Charlene in Red's heart. He was known as Pop Pop, the grandfather to the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren. So on behalf of the family, 3 of the grandchildren reading the scripture will come now, and they will be Sita and Anna and Chloe.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Isaiah's prophecy of the coming Messiah, who is our hope today. Isaiah 53, verses 1 through 7. Who has believed what he has heard from us, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like a young plant, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no form or majesty that we should look at him, and no beauty that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And as one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his wounds we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth.
Paul's prayer for the church, Ephesians chapter 3, verses 14 through 21. For this reason I bow my knees before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth is named, that according to the riches of his glory he may grant you to be strengthened with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may have strength to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth, and to know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled with all the fullness of God. Now to him who is able to do far more abundantly than all that we ask or think, according to the power at work within us, to him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen.
In Chloe's reading from Ephesians, it was actually a prayer prayed by the Apostle Paul for then and for today. May we join together in prayer now. We are grateful that your love for Red has no end. It began by birth in Spur, Texas, beneath the big sky and the ranch lands. But you guided him from there into the Gulf waters and the South Plains around Corpus Christi. And you brought him to San Antonio along the banks of a famous river, and he could see a vision of a hemisphere being a gateway for the Americas. You gave him a stirring of love, Charlene and he, that they shared in marriage for 69 years, and blessed us with an image of what it means to have that level of a marital love. You brought into their lives 3 remarkable daughters, and from them generations that now go forward in leadership. We come that we may be stirred to be here at our best by way of your grace, and to know that love wins. As our lives are placed in you, we may win in life for all eternity through Christ. Amen.
Red McCombs began his career in the auto business with a promise to his customers. He would go the extra mile to help them buy the car they really wanted to drive.
That process was, I know that you want a car, and I'm here to help you. Just tell me what you want, and I'm going to help you get it.
And by keeping that promise, he found himself on the road to success, selling 4 times as many cars as any other salesman in town.
I was selling 30 to 35 cars a month, and the average we're selling about 8, and that's still the case.
Red's passion for customer care became his famous lifelong motto.
At Red McCombs, we're driven to serve.
Along the way, he not only sold more cars than any other salesman in the state of Texas, he also built the #1 winningest basketball team in NBA history.
We are committed that this franchise in San Antonio will be the very best that there is in the NBA.
The noisiest arena in the NBA.
San Antonio is known now internationally because of the Spurs. It's by far the biggest thing that I ever had anything to do with insofar as capturing a community.
I see him as a visionary. Everything he put his hands on really found great success. He was a mentor to me, an example, and a friend.
He co-founded the world's most successful radio, TV, and outdoor media empire.
Never intended to build that worldwide greatest group of stations ever put together, and it allowed me to do a lot of things I couldn't have done otherwise.
And he turned sleepy San Antonio into the 7th largest city in the entire U.S. with a 250-year anniversary party called Hemisphere 68.
I would say that Red McCombs' legacy is the gift of his leadership, the gift of his vision in building San Antonio from what it was when he first moved here to what it is today.
Those are just a few of Red's personal achievements.
I want to win my turf, and if you're on the next corner, I'm going to beat you, and which I usually do.
With all his success, his larger-than-life exploits, and his pure Texas charm, Red always considered his lifelong love affair with his wife Charlene and the family they built together to be his greatest accomplishment.
We know the contagious nature of his love for Charlene and how they mutually respected each other, and he listened to her, and they formed a marriage that inspired us for 69 years.
I'm Linda.
I'm Marcia. And I'm Connie.
And together, we are the real Red McCombs team.
And Charlene had a lot to do with who he gave money to. And the Empire Theater is named after her. They gave money to the Tobin Center for the Performing Arts.
But Red wasn't content to just look after his family. He opened up his heart and he opened up his wallet to make a Texas-sized contribution to fight cancer at MD Anderson Hospital. He also made the single largest gift in history to the University of Texas Business School to help students get on the fast track to success for generations to come.
Nearly 23 years ago, Red made a transformative gift that, in his words, aside from my family, was truly the defining moment of my life. It defined our school too.
In every way, Red inspired us to think bigger, do more, give more, strive to be the best, and never lose sight of our student focus.
Red McCombs loved cars.
His initial success in car dealerships was magnified incredibly with everything that he touched.
He loved sports.
I'm grateful to have known him. I'm grateful to the McCombs family.
And he loved this city.
Probably the biggest impact he had here was with his businesses and the investments that he's made here.
And most of all, he loved his family.
What's also amazing about Red is how he included his family as a top priority while conducting business with a global impact.
He has been called the most significant San Antonian of the 20th century. Billy Joe Red McCombs is forever remembered for 95 years of life, incredibly well lived.
Really great men can make others feel that they can be great too.
That's a quote from Mark Twain, and it describes Red's impact on others.
Now let's hear from Texas legends that Red inspired to greatness.
I first met Red at his office, and we had an unexpected bond about overcoming challenges. As everybody knows, Red had a serious problem during a time in his life with alcoholism, and he almost lost his life because of it. In typical Red fashion, he recovered from that setback and turned it into a meaningful life lesson. During our conversation, with Red knowing what had happened to me, he said, "Greg, it's not how you're knocked down, it's how you get back up." That is the story of Red's life, and candidly, probably an element in all of our lives. Getting back up, moving forward, even in tough times, is what Red taught everybody how to do. Well, as you heard, the University of Texas Business School is named after Red McCombs. The University of Texas has a slogan: "What starts here changes the world." No one has taken that standard to a higher level than Red McCombs. Red has etched an everlasting imprint in this world. Long after all of us are gone, Red's legacy will continue to shape our state, our country, and this great city. and Texas and San Antonio and all of us will be better for it. Thank you, Red. We love you.
He really, really loved the journey. This is a man that understood his priorities, and they started at home with Charlene and his family. That made him a very special person in my life. And as I look back and you start to drill down deeper and deeper into who he was, there was a whole lot of mush in there. He wasn't this big, tough guy. Down in his soul and his heart, he loved to laugh. He had one of the best senses of humor of anybody I've ever been around. I can still see him giggling as he would regale you with stories of deals he was planning to do, things that ended up well, things that ended up poorly, his shoulders bouncing up and down as he either scolded you or laughed with you. He enjoyed it very much. When I think back to the late 80s, my first sighting of this man, in the incarnate word gym, he and Larry Brown were foolish enough to give myself and R.C. Buford and Elvin Gentry and Ed Manning our first NBA jobs. We didn't help very much. But he walked in, we were at practice, and I heard these three words at the top of his voice. All right, all right, all right. And I stopped and I looked. I couldn't believe this individual. He had these giant boots on, a hat that I'd never seen before in my life, not coming from Texas, a long coat and fur around his shoulders and around his neck. He walked right out onto the court and everybody just stopped. We could not believe what we were seeing. And I sort of immediately figured out, I think this guy's probably in charge. I just want to share one note that he sent that will explain why I think there's a whole lot of mush in there, along with the toughness and the competitiveness. So this is word for word. Congratulations, Pop, on a very challenging but very successful season. The best is yet to come. From a professional standpoint, you're in the best position that anyone could ever be in. And this is the part that means something. Just remember to love your family with as much of your time as you can. Have fun. Just know that I love you. See you soon. Red. That's more than a wheeler dealer. Love you, Red.
He rescued me personally. In 1992, Denver cut me. And if you don't know what cut means, well, they waived me. I was out of job. And I'll never forget, Red called me in January of 1992. And he said, Avery, I'm Red McCombs. I said, who? He said, I own the San Antonio Spurs, and we need a backup point guard. He said, I'll send you a Southwest ticket, and you fly over here to San Antonio, and we'll check you out, and then you can join the Spurs team. But he saved my career. 1992. And my career was never the same because he gave me a shot. Had a chance to meet Pop and RC and Coach Brown, but he saved my career. And I saw how special San Antonio was, playing in the Hemisphere Arena and then the Alamo Dome, all because of this man whose fate was anchored in the Lord. And here's what I'll say in closing. During our 99 run, it was pretty cool because when the public address announcer would introduce the team, he would start off by saying, and head coach of the San Antonio Spurs, Greg Popovich. And then what he would say out of American University, Mario Elie, out of Wake Forest University, Tim Duncan. And every time the public address announcer would introduce these players, my teammates, the crowd would go crazy. Then he would say, Sean Elliott out of Arizona. Then Avery Johnson out of Southern University. And the crowd would just go crazy. And then the big punchline was, and the man in the middle, 7'1", out of the U.S. Naval Academy, David Robinson. And the crowd would go crazy. Well, my friends, the crowd is going crazy right now in heaven because Red McCombs have been introduced to another life that's going to be with no pain, no sorrow, nothing but joy. And the crowd's going crazy because the man that anchored this city and loved so many is now in his heavenly home, and he's rested in peace. God bless your family.
He and Charlene also invested in individuals. And I was one of the lucky ones to be mentored by Red and Charlene. He took, for some reason, a personal interest in my professional development. As a young professional, young husband, young father, he advised me on all things. Sports and media. Red had very strong opinions about what should be covered and what should not be covered, and he expressed those very clearly. He always talked about family, to prioritize my wife and kids. And you know what? Most of the time, the message from Red was very simple. It was pretty much, be smarter, work harder, and be nice to people you work with, and even your competitors. So I'm very grateful for Red. Nothing would brighten your day more than getting one of those handwritten notes from Red or Charlene. Charlene was on that beautiful stationery. You guys know that perfect cursive script handwriting, as if she was in a contest for handwriting. And it would be so glorious. And then Red, on that 5x7 manila card with Red McCombs at the top, in red, expect to win at the bottom, engraved. And then he would scribble out something in ballpoint pen, something like, Big Don, done good, Red. And I realized he didn't take too much time on those things because he had so many to write. I had lunch with him on his 90th birthday, and I asked him, I said, Red, I know you've been in politics and very influential over the years, but why didn't you make your politics more public? And he said, Don, because Democrats and Republicans both someday are going to need a new car. True story. We are all indebted to his vision, his kindness, most of all, his love.
The McCombs family is grateful to each of you who have joined and made this service a tribute of life and God's power of resurrection, that your presence has made this service possible. Those who have joined us by live stream and part of this kind of virtual communication of connection that we are in from around the world. That in the experience of our being here today, we as friends say to you as family, we love you and our prayers go with you. We're grateful for Dick and Kristin Tibbs, who helped to lead the effort that pulled together and crafted our service of celebration today. And we're grateful to the Tobin Center. There's a Texas expression that says, if you get up in the saddle, you better be ready for the ride. This saddle of Red's was ridden well by him. He was ready for the ride. And now, God has set him on a new adventure, an adventure that is real, the adventure of eternity. And I recall then the closing words of the Apostle Paul, who put it this way to us who remain here on earth until this day comes for us. Be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of God, for as much as you know that your labor in the Lord is never in vain.
Thank you for allowing us to share the story of Red McCombs' amazing life.
On behalf of the Mission Park family, we extend our heartfelt condolences to his family and everyone he touched.
And we celebrate Billy Joe Red McCombs and 95 years of a life well lived.